Chapter 7 Testing. As the largest city of Kikswangsing, Xuanqing City controls the lifeline of Kikswangsing. Naturally, it is Qiangliyuyu, and countless ancient buildings tower into the sky. The most eye-catching is the Xuanxingmen standing on the mountain in the center of the city. The streets of Xuanqing City were noisy and lively, and there were shouts of vendors selling weapons and exercises everywhere. "Where are you from?" The young man in the carriage looked at the street outside the window and asked Shinshiobai. "Me?" Shinshiobai didn't know who this young man was, and he dressed like a son of a big family. He didn't know if it was the Zhang family, and he was a little hesitant whether this person was an enemy or a friend. "Otherwise?" The young man looked back at Shinshiobai and smiled slightly. "It's just you and me in this car, why don't you ask me?" "I don't know either." Shinshiobai shook his head with a smile. He doesn't even know where he is. Lingkong village? But there is no relative there, can it still be my own home? I don't know. The young man was surprised, this answer really surprised him. "You don't know where you are? You talk first." Shinshiobai said, he wanted to confirm first whether the person in front of him was from the Zhang family. So easy for him to answer. "Me?" The young man smiled lightly, closed the window on the carriage, and sat up straight in front of Shinshiobai. "All right then, let me introduce myself. Hello, my name is Yang Xiao. Disciple of Xuanxingmen." Yang Xiao? Shinshiobai seemed to have seen this name before, and after thinking about it, he said, "The 9th one on the Xuanxingmen Lingwu ranking?" "Heh." Yang Xiao snorted in surprise. He didn't expect a boy who looked like a beggar to recognize him. "Is he so famous? You actually know me?" The authority of Xuanxingmen's Lingwu ranking will shock the entire Kikswangsing, who doesn't know? Shinshiobai said. "Then you can introduce yourself." Yang Xiao said. "My name is Shinshiobai. I came from a small mountain village." Shinshiobai said, with a hint of red in his eyes. "Huh?" Yang Xiao seemed to notice the change in Shinshiobai's eyes, his eyes narrowed, and he took a closer look. "What's wrong? Your eyes suddenly turned red?" "Oh, nothing." Shinshiobai hurriedly wiped his eyes, trying to get them back to normal. "Before I came here, my parents died of illness." "I'm sorry." Yang Xiao was a little embarrassed and asked Shinshiobai's sadness. "It's okay." Shinshiobai wiped his eyes again and waved to Yang Xiao. "I am used to it. Where are you going to sign up at Xuanxingmen now?" Yang Xiao hurriedly changed the topic. "Didn't it start tomorrow?" Shinshiobai asked. "I don't know if those elders are out of their minds or something else. This time the requirements are set so high." Yang Xiao couldn't help but complain. The requirements for recruiting disciples have never been so high before. The requirements are too high. Those who meet the requirements have already entered the Xuanxingmen in the enrollment a few months ago. So there are not many people who have signed up this time. It doesn't matter if you go now. Yang Xiao explained. "Then where are you going?" Shinshiobai asked, thinking that this was the first time he came to Xuanqing City, and he was not familiar with the place. "See if you can make it through." "Of course I'm going back to the sect." Yang Xiao said. "Can you take me to sign up? It's my first time here, so I'm not familiar with the way." Shinshiobai pleaded. "This is a trivial matter," Yang Xiao said. "Then, thank you." Shinshiobai handed over slightly. "You're welcome, based on your current strength. You will be my junior brother sooner or later." Yang Xiao patted Shinshiobai on the shoulder. Yang Xiao was overjoyed at the moment. Going out to practice and coming back would also allow him to find a guy with a good talent. The 15-year-old 9-stage body tempering stage, this talent is enough to rank in the top few in the Xuanxingmen. Yang Zhao's carriage galloped past, and the huge city of Xuanqing seemed to become small at the speed of his carriage. But after a while, they arrived at the foot of Xuanqing Mountain. Yang Xiao and Xinqiubai got off the carriage. Xinqiubai looked curiously at the huge and undulating peaks in front of him. The most powerful force of Qi Xuanqing actually lived on such a fairyland-like peak. Several layers of thick white fog make the already desirable Zhuangxingmen even more mysterious. It's like a fairyland. Xinqiubai couldn't help sighing. On the surface, Yang Xiao looked at the mountain in front of him with disdain. Why is there no one here? Xinqiubai looked left and right, and saw that he didn't see a single person. Did the most powerful force in Qi Xuanqing not even have a guarded disciple? Do I need someone to watch the gate of my Zhuangxingmen? Yang Xiao smiled disdainfully. Xinqiubai's face was full of black lines. It's good, but a little too arrogant. Let's go, I'll take you to sign up. Yang Xiao pointed his hand forward and walked up the stone steps quickly. Xinqiubai hurriedly followed, not forgetting to look at the surrounding scenery while walking. Not long after Xinqiubai and Yang Xiao went up the mountain, a few mysterious people walked out of several ancient buildings on the far street at the foot of the mountain and left in all directions. On the mountainside, on a long rectangular wooden table, lay several disciples wearing Zhuangxingmen costumes. They are the disciples in charge of this recruitment, but because the sect's requirements are too high, the recruitment scene that has always been very lively is now empty. They can only sit here and sleep in boredom to pass the boring time. Hey, get up! Yang Xiao walked to the wooden table and woke up a few disciples who were asleep. Who can't open their eyes, dare to disturb. The disciple sat up slowly, opened his blurred eyes and saw Yang Zhao's figure, startled. I'm going, why is senior brother Yang here? Yang Xiao, who was usually hard to see even once, actually appeared at the admissions scene of Zhuangxingmen. This is indeed a bit of a shock. Quick, get up. The disciple hurriedly got up and patted the disciples on both sides to wake up, and ran to Yang Zhao's side. Senior brother Yang is here, please take a seat. Hello, senior brother Yang. The two disciples beside him saw Yang Xiao coming, so they hurriedly said hello. Okay. Yang Xiao pushed the disciple away. Pointing to Xinqiubai behind him, he said, he's here to sign up, please deal with it. Senior brother Yang, we will definitely. The disciple followed the direction of Yang Zhao's fingers and saw Xinqiubai, who was a little sloppy and had greasy hair that stretched to his shoulders, and was immediately dumbfounded. With a look of contempt, he said, Senior brother, isn't this a beggar? Xinqiubai scratched his head embarrassedly when he heard this. Should have washed some and changed clothes. You shouldn't be in a hurry as soon as you walk out of the serious mountains. Uncle, beggar. Yang Xiao slapped the disciple on the head fiercely. He meets the conditions for our Zhuangxingmen to recruit disciples this time. Hurry up and test it. After the test, I will take him to change his clothes. Oh, fine. The disciple heard this and hurriedly agreed, hurriedly instructing the other two disciples to get the test stone. Senior brother Yang. The disciple took advantage of the time when the other two disciples took the test stone, and whispered in Yang Zhao's ear, Are you sure he is qualified? This beggar really doesn't look like it. Have you been deceived? Liar to you, uncle. Yang Xiao hit the disciple on the head again. Where does all this nonsense come from? Just take the test and you'll know. Zing sing sing. The disciple was no longer asking, and he was afraid of being beaten by Yang Xiao. Anyway, when something went wrong, it wasn't him who made a fool of himself. The other two disciples also brought a round gray stone plate with an extremely complex magic circle engraved on the stone plate. Just put your hand on this. The disciple pointed to the middle of the stone plate and looked at Xinqiubai again. Okay. Xinqiubai walked to the wooden table and placed his right hand on the stone plate. The moment Xinqiu touched the stone plate with his bare hands, the stone plate emitted a violent red light and began to tremble. The violent shaking of the stone plate made the wooden table a little unbearable, and the disciple watching next to him hurriedly held down the table. Xinqiubai looked suspiciously at the red stone plate. He didn't know what was going on. This is. The disciple's pupils instantly dilated, and his mouth widened. It's actually red, and it's still dark red. What does this mean? Yang Xiao asked suspiciously. In previous tests, colors were never used to represent the tester's strength and age. Quick, quick! The disciple quickly reacted and patted the sluggish disciple next to him. Go and invite Elder Peng to come over, great joy. Oh. The disciple beside him also reacted and hurriedly ran towards the mountain, leaving behind Yang Xiao and Xinqiubai, who were stunned. Senior brother, what's the situation? Xinqiubai slowly retracted his right hand and looked at the disciple in front of him. Junior brother is really humble. The disciple hurriedly changed his face, and the previous look of contempt disappeared after this. Some are just flattering and smiling. This disciple knew in his heart that his future achievements would be very high, and he should have a good relationship now. Easy to get along with in the future. Otherwise, if you wait for others to get high, you won't even have the opportunity to be courteous. Your strength is completely in line with my Zhuangxingmen standards for recruiting disciples this time. After entering the Zhuangxingmen, we will all be your senior brothers. In the future, you can find me as a senior. The disciple hurriedly walked to Xinqiubai and shook his hand. Hold on to his stained hands. Introduce yourself to the younger brother. My name is Wang Exian. I am Elder Peng's disciple. You can come to me if you have anything. Wang Exian said with a smile. Oh. Okay. Xinqiubai stammered in reply, and Xinqiubai didn't react to this change. This face-changing speed is the second, no one will say the first, right? I haven't asked the teacher's name yet? Wang Exian said, seeing that Xinqiubai was a little embarrassed, he withdrew his clenched hands. Hello senior brother. My name is Xinqiubai. Xinqiubai said. Xinqiubai? It's a good name. Wang Exian praised. Okay. Yang Xiao was left to the side, a little unhappy. He interrupted their conversation and said, You haven't told me what's going on? It wasn't tested like this before. I'm sorry, I neglected senior brother Yang. Wang Exian hurriedly smiled, walked to Yang Zhao's side, and helped him sit at the table. Said, This time Elder Wang personally sent it here. He said that this time I will test it on this stone plate. Then what happened to the red light just now? Why are you so surprised when you see it? Do you want to invite the elders over? Yang Xiao asked. That is the test level of the stone plate. There are 5 colors of black, yellow, green, blue and red. Black is the lowest, and red is the highest. The colors are only divided into whether they meet the standards for entering my Zhuangxingmen. Wang Exian explained. Since it's just a standard, why are you so surprised? Yang Xiao was puzzled, but it's just a standard. If junior brother Shin is only red, then there is really no need to invite the elders, but junior brother Shin's red is dark red. Wang Exian said. Is there any difference? Xinqiubai asked. It's normal for junior brother to not know. The dark red means that your talent is very high. It is so high that it exceeds the test limit of this stone plate, so we have to invite the elders. Only the elders can accurately test. Wang Exian said. He. Yang Xiao smiled crookedly. He didn't expect that he would actually find the treasure. He quickly took out a sound transmission stone, muttered a few words, and put it away. Where did junior brother Shin come from? It's so powerful. Xinqiubai felt at a loss for words. He didn't know how to answer his origin. At this moment, a figure descended with a breeze. Looking at Xinqiubai, a trace of contempt appeared on his face. Looking at Yang Xiao and Wang Exian again, he said, Yo, Yang Xiao is back. Why don't you know to say hello to me? Hello, Elder Peng. Seeing Elder Pang Hanshin coming, Yang Xiao quickly got up and saluted. I just came back, I haven't had time to go to your place yet. Wang Xian also hurriedly followed suit. Yeah. Pang Hanshin stroked the long white beard and nodded slightly. He continued, come and sit at my place when you are free. Disciple must go when you have time. Yang Xiao said respectfully. Where is that red-ranked disciple? Pang Hanshin directly ignored Shinxiubai, who looked like a woman and was sloppy, and looked at Wang Xian. Seeing that Pang Hanshin ignored Shinxiubai directly, Wang Xian looked at Shinxiubai in embarrassment. Pointing at Shinxiubai, he said, Teacher, he is. What? Pang Hanshin looked at Shinxiubai with a look of surprise, looked at Shinxiubai carefully, and asked, You're the kid who measured the red level just now? Didn't you say it's a man?